Good evening, good evening. Welcome to the live Facebook. Thank you for coming tonight and thank you for sharing this video in your timeline. And of course, some of you may wonder the US midterm election is such a big mystery compared to what our local election is. In many ways, there are some similarity, and let me just break it down for you tonight on our talk how the US midterm November 2022 election will impact the stock market. Of course, my opinion is more from a stock market opinion, and of course some of these are quite relevant to our today market in here, and a little bit of where are we taking on to the market after this, especially after the November. What are the things that we should be looking at? So this is something that I will talk about tonight, and if you have any question, do pencil those in there. I'm more than happy to share with them with you in here, and also giving you a little bit of take some of the stocks that I like from a US sector. So tonight it's a lot of talk on the part where some of you may be interested, especially in the US context in here, which I'll be covering right now as it is. So US market definitely has been one of my favorite market as I've seen so far in here before. So this is how I've been doing it, and I think for many of you, I believe this also will be a very, very good market for you to look into it. So without further ado, so let's get to counter it, and let me break it down for you in our US midterm 2022 election. Now, of course, this is our disclaimer. Welcome to our live Facebook, and thank you for coming tonight. Especially tonight, we'll be talking about the impact of the US midterm election. Now, there's a difference between the midterm election and also the overall election. Now, US usually has a presidential election every 4 years where they will select the president, but every 2 years, this is where they will go on and select the Congress, which is our parliament, like they're doing, and also the House Congress, which is where all the so-called smaller counties, smaller states, which is around 400 and plus, will make up to it. And this usually get in between the midterm of the president. So for example, the last election US had was 2020, so the midterm election is 2022. Now, typically the House Congress seats are only for 2 years, but the Senate seat, which they are running on, is for 6 years, and we'll be talking about those. But more importantly, from an impact as an investor, as a trader, how does that impact? Let's get on to the market in there. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube market, if not, for all our information that we have. And also for this month of November, which we're continuing our educational program, the major events, the stock market, and last week we did talk about the CPO market rally in here, and we did share with you a strategy that really works well, and we will debut on this master class, especially those of you who are member in here. Do join us for the futures market in here. We'll debut the FCPO for all things that will give you an opportunity for income trading going forward in here. And not to forget, tonight is the 9th of November, is the US midterm election, which is ongoing, and the result is being displayed as you turn on your CNN or also any of the American or even BBC broadcasts in here. But next week is the preparation for the general election 15. That's right. Now, don't forget, this coming Saturday will be our foundation class 1, and for those of you who have registered, I'll see you this Saturday in here, and we're doing by the Zoom in here. Now, what do we have for you tonight is definitely the US midterm election, the 2022, what to know and what are the impact to the US market, and where do we fare from in here. We will look at some of the historical and also forecasts going into the US market 2022 and 23, the correlation between the Democrats and Republicans winning the House and the Congress in here, as well as the Senate, and how to, more importantly, how to benefit from this midterm election 22. I will give you a couple of good suggestions in here. You can take it and see whether those make sense or not, and tie back to the US stock market, and also looking at some of the US sector stock for 2022, all with our VSA 360. And of course, we got another just 2 more months to go, which is will signify the end of the 4th quarter in here. No doubt market has really dropped more than 18% so far year to date in here, but usually we do get some sort of rally, and also showcase to you what are those likely to be. So November is likely to be the low right now in here, and so far, even judging from the result that we released, we probably won't see any big uptake that we see in there. And there was not such a big surprises that we were talking about in here, but December is the month that we want to be going up here. Now, of course, some of you may be in this situation, like, what happens the market continue to go down? What kind of trading are you looking at? Some of you may have sold some of the earlier stock, as we did see the rebound in the rubber tech stock. Maybe you want to move some fund, recover now and move it to the US market. Now, we are looking for some idea in here, the US 2022 going forward 2023 in here, the midterm election certainly looking very, very good, as we explained on tonight in here, right? Very simple. Opportunity is definitely on the upside in here. Look for those opportunity in here, and all those with our VSA 360 new features that we'll be using to sharing with you some of these in here. Now let's get down to the basic first. Now, no doubt, when we talk about Democrat being one of the best performer, it did perform very well in the first year in 2021, but subsequently 2022, we have what? We started in February 24th. We have the Russian-Ukraine war, which supposed to last maybe maximum of about 3 to 4 months, which we forecast, but it is still ongoing now into the winter months. So the winter month between the Russian-Ukraine war would slow down in here, because the cold season and the cold minus freezing temperature make it very hard to fight on. So with that in mind, this war will still continue, and that has prolonged to many problems that we've seen. Higher inflation rate in here as the economy reopening. We have lockdown in China, we have grain embargo, we have oil prices, we have the strike on the Nord Stream in here, gas prices spike up to almost $300 per cubic meter in here, and all those really bearing for the year 2022. As such, we have seen as of Monday, the S&P has fallen by 1.2% since Biden took office, if we take it back to January. So all the big move that he made in January 2022, which was up by about 26%, and the market fall somewhere around 20%. So we are back to almost square one. So it does make them the worst performing since Jimmy Carter. But don't forget, we still got 2 more years to go. But of course, those 3 bear factors, which I'll explain towards the end in here. But by contrast, Biden seems to be struggling in terms of stock market performance compared to Donald Trump. Of course, the 4-year in the first midterm was around 23%, and Obama had a great time because that was where we saw the global financial crisis in here failing. But they didn't have the crisis that we have, the Russian-Ukraine war, which I blame mainly for the huge spike that we see in inflation in here. So fact one is Biden's stock market for the first midterm has been the worst performer in here. Now let's get on to US midterm election 101 in here, the 3 branches of government, and we do have that in here. The judicial, which is the Supreme Court in US, which typically make up for all the judges there. I believe they have the 9 Supreme judges, which is actually appointed by the US president, but they are approved by the Senate, all right, which is the Senate under the legislation, which is the lawmaker. Just is very similar to what we have in Parliament. The executive, which is the president in here, is just like the Prime Minister, and then they are supposed to operate independently. But if you look back in the history over the last Donald Trump, going back as far back as 2016, much of the judicial, the Supreme Court has been plugged in by a lot of the Trump supporter of the Republican, which is a conservative, and that's why you have this huge anti-abortion act, and also a few more defunding the police, which seems to be going and ongoing. So right now, the US midterm election is the fight for democracy. Of course, the Republican will probably address it, that this is matter of economic issue, and yet you still have a lot of Donald Trump issue that is coming up after this election. This likely be called into the courts, a lot of lawsuit against in here, but during this midterm, everything new. Donald Trump will also likely to make an announcement on the 15th of November, which is he will be running again for 2024, the Republican nominee against President Biden in here, which is likely to be the Democrat Republican. So it will be a rerun of what we saw in 2020. All right, a rerun in 2020, but who will win? We're definitely going to bring you much on that. But I think your tally and your opinion will be pretty much highlighted in here. If you just think that going forward, who do you think will likely to win in this midterm election? I'd like to hear your feedback in here, and also going forward to 2024. Now, if you look from the current president of United States is President Biden. You may like about him or you may not like about him in here, but definitely Biden is definitely one of those boring guys who came out from the 2020 COVID to bringing some action to it. No doubt there are talks about the Biden were going head on with the China that we see with the Taiwan tension and also the Russian-Ukraine war. He's no longer the kind of good guy or the grandfather that we see, the Sleepy Joe that we see. He can be very controversial in here, but at the same time I do think that he does bring some changes to the climate change, which is the Inflation Reduction Act, which is Biden has passed out. But then the Republicans are coming in. But these are the number that we all will be talking about. The 100 seats that is the Senate, and Senate will term usually lasts for 6 years, and then you have the House membership usually lasts for 2 years in here. So you can see there are 435 which is going out to for bidding. The 218 is to ensure who wins it with a simple majority or not. So right now it's almost neck to neck in here. 50 for the Senate seat, 48 for the Senate seat, and 48 for the Republican seat in here. And I'm going to share with you some of the results that we have right up to 7 o'clock this evening local time Malaysia in here. So it's a neck to neck in here. Of course, from a stock market standpoint and from the outsider like you and me, who is better for the, because we are not voter in here. Now if you look back from some of the analysis that is made by economists, Democrat are basically very similar to DAP or Pakatan, which favor low income, whereas a Republican are like the Barisan Nasional in here. So first, let me just bring out the laser pointer. So if you look back, the the Democrat favor low income, reducing inequality, Keynesian, that the government spend its way out for recession and economic. That's why economic growth is better under Democrats. All right, they say that big governments are important to ensure that everything, every corp and work get run properly in here. That is the job of a Democrat. Whereas for the Republican are going for supply side, they always argue, right? Tax cut is good for the businessmen in here, so that way they can employ more people. But we do see a lot of exploitation where the wages continue to be low. The business-friendly approach has made Republicans better for the economy. We have seen Elon Musk used to be a Democrat coming in, but as such that the heavy tax that was imposed on his factory in California that prompt him to move over to Texas. Now he has become a Republican, and the recent purchase of Twitter and allowing the so-called hardliner back into the Twitter has been very controversial in here. So we have to see which is better, but science has proven that from the research, from a stock market standpoint, Democrat has been much better in here. Shorter terms, we may see Republican policy, however, but if you go back in terms of the sum of large number, Democrats has always been good in terms of the stock market in here. So let's take a look at the results so far. Now remember, the early on prediction that was made by Trump as well as the Republican has been the red wave, which means they sapu everything lah. They will win both the Senate, which is the 100-seat membership, as well as the 435 House membership, which is the big parliament in here. But apparently it's not so much. So it is almost 50-50, neck to neck. The control of the House now hang in balance as we speak on in here. Perhaps maybe in the next few days or even weeks, some of those results may come out. And I do think the biggest controversy has been the big win for John Fetterman, which is from the Democrat, beating the flipping the Pennsylvania, which usually has been Republican area in here with Dr. Oz. So that was definitely a surprise. The other one is the Georgia seat between Walnut Raphael versus the Herschel Walker. That is another seats which is ongoing, and I'm watching it very closely to see who will control the Senate in here. So right now, so far the result you can see in here is 48 to Democrat and 48 to Republican, because Republican were expecting the sweep out maybe around 52 seats in here, but you can also see Democrat in terms of the House membership has started to crawl back. They took up 3 seats in here and they have picked up 9 seats, which means more of the flip off from here. 199 is Republican in here. So to make and control the House to one hit. So what does it mean once you control the House? Definitely one of the first administration that is coming in from Republican will be to impeach Biden. So you hear it first from me. So there are going to be a lot of impeachment of Biden family and some of the administration team that Biden has in here. So it is thought to be the revenge administration. So it is going to be, how is it going to impact the stock market in here? To much of it, if you look back in the past, there is no impact to the stock market in here, although some press will try to make it in here. But I do think whatever going forward, going back to the data that we have in here, it does look like very, very promising that we see. So some of the major takeaway, all right, in short, I just want to put out this slide in here from the Forbes, is that since 1950, the average return after the midterm election in 12 months was 15%, and there were no down years, all right? So this year is going to be interesting because we have the Russian-Ukraine war, that we have the big inflation in here, and also don't forget the US FOMC Jerome Powell continued to wave on with the interest rate hike. We had a 75 basis point interest hike, and they're talking one in January 2023. So that interest hike, you have some bearings in here. But if you look back at the history, midterm election does promise a market performance better. You can see 17 out of the 19 times since 1946 the stock market performed better in the 6 months following the election as it did leading up to it. So remember, leading to the election in November has been the worst performer. So it should perform better in here. Don't forget, we also have the December rally. December rally is definitely coming in here. And also the annual gains of the S&P 500 has been 13%. So two facts remain. Market do well after midterm election, giving 15%. That's fact number one. Fact number two, coming into the November midterm election, they don't do so well. The 6 months. Going after the November 2022 election, they do much better, the 6 months. Fact number two. And fact number three, with all this, the S&P 500 will normally get a range of 13% from where we took off, which is the November time frame, because we obviously December rally in here. And we're also going to looking at some of the seasonal monthly return, which does paint a picture of what we are seeing right now. Now, if you look here, these are all the average growth for the midterm election, 18%. This is from Forbes. So depending who does the number crunching previously, that was from another Charles Schwab, another research house here. So I just want to draw your attention to year 2020. Now, year 2020 was the midterm election that they have. It was a plus 36% in here. You could see plus 36%. The last midterm election they have, which remember they do it every year, 2018 was 14%. The lowest they ever got was around 4%. The midterm election, that was a 4% in here. So we are talking somewhere between around 10 to 18%, and depending, so we are looking in this kind of number in here using November 5th as a proxy file. So back to those numbers that we talk about, around 13% in here. Now if we go forward 12 months from now, it's about 18%, and if you go on to 2 years from now, it's about 33%. Again, this is the law of summary in here. So it does paint a very bullish picture going forward in here. So that is something that you want to keep in mind what we have in here. All right. And there was a president that can bring world peace. That is really a real challenge to whoever becoming the real president in here. As we can see, the fight between the East and the West, and people like us Malaysians who are peace-loving citizens are just hammered right in the between in here. I do agree with Aisha in here that whichever president is must bring peace to the world. Now, if you look back, those numbers are a bit small in here, but what it basically says in this number in here is Democrat do better. a presidential under Democrat, which is the blue flag, does better. You can see 2021 is 25% in here. Republican was 18%. Barack Obama was 31 and 24. That give you a 54. Right, Republican, you can see minus 14, 5%. Trump only have one term, which is his 4 years. That's why you saw 18%. If you look in terms of the average, Republican average about minus 1%. All right, so if you look back, going back to just after the Great Depression, 1930s, only averaging 1%, whereas the Democrat average about 14%. And one of these because of the policy of spending money. They tend to spend money. Of course, this is where the US debt continue to float to 24 million, which will be a problem when it come up to this coming December 2021, where they need to pass the debt ownership, which is around 24 trillion already. So they need the Congress to lift the debt ceiling again, which is year in, year out, same problem that they have, right? Have some impact on the stock market, but eventually to get it going, they just kick the bucket down the line, all right? So keep in mind, Democrat is good for the stock market, and right now, President Biden, which is under a blue wave president in here, should fall under that category. Now, should the Republican control the U.S. Congress House, right? People always talk about it. What happened if the Congress as well as the Senate is controlled by Republican in here? Usually what happens is the president will focus more on foreign policies. This is usually going to be the Russian and Ukraine war as well as Taiwan. So he won't be doing so much of a policy in here. So one of the things that if Republican control the US Congress, one of them will be taxes. Okay, tax in here is that Joe Biden wanted to do what we call a windfall tax, similar to what they did in Malaysia. Those who done very well, they get a bit of tax because they need some revenue in here. But of course, with the Republican controlling, those are not likely to get done. So, which means a lot of the tax raise by the Democrat in here will probably not get any approval or not. So there'll probably be a lot of fight in the US Congress in here. But again, that also have no implication, minimum implication to what we see in the stock market in here. But what is going to be interesting is going to the road US election, because this will pave the presidential nominees going to 2024. As I said before, on the 15th of November, Donald Trump will announce his nominees in here, and probably Biden will going to be agreed. So the same two old men, which is more than 70 plus and 80 plus, will be bidding for 2024 US presidential election in here. And it's going to be interesting to see how well it is. If President Biden were to face off Trump, then it looks like President Biden has the upper hand, because ex-President Trump has a lot of issues with the lawsuit and also the case with the Mar-a-Lago documents in here. So he has a lot of other court cases need to bring out. Who knows? He might just go into a lot of the legality before he really can even run it in here. Now, much of the US stock market really, right, other than the politics, the inflation figures which we've been talking month to month is also continuing to be a real concern. Now, the US inflation rate, which is released on the mid of every November, last month on the October 13, they were expecting 8.1 or 8.0, but the market did not. Instead, it had some sort of a two-bar reversal in here. But you can see it did peak somewhere in June at 9.1, and since then, with the raise of an interest rate, the inflation rate and they just raised another 175 basis point. So a lot of analysts is pointing for the November 11, it's likely to be below 8%. So if that's the case, then we are seeing a downtrend of inflation, right? And that's why we are seeing the stock market has generally bottomed up. If you look at the green pentagon in here, we did see on the Dow Jones way back on end of October, right? That's where the green pentagon came out. I'm going to share with you in here. Now, we're also with the US presidential, I do see tapering off of the US and ringgit in here, where US dollar right now is currently at 4.7. So with this US midterm election on, I do see possibility with from a chart wise, technically, we will see ringgit strengthen off back in here. I don't potentially see it until $5 in here, because all those are just pointing more, is looking a bit toppish on here onwards. And with the election going on, usually, hopefully we see opening of China. Remember, opening of China, the lockdown. So we'll see probably strengthening of the yuan, which in turn correlate to strengthening of the ringgit versus the US dollar here. All right. Now, the ongoing bear monster are still here, right? The inflation, the interest rate, and the uncertainty of recession is ongoing. As the market will raise higher, you'll see a lot of the punters and economists, especially those from the bear market, will say this market will fall further in here. I don't think so in here because the recession has been avoided. And of course, with this coming midterm election, right, more spending will be out of the way in here. The direction will be in because the trend has been set forward in here. Interest rate will still continue to be raised. The next one will be in January 2023. Inflation, as I said before, we are hoping for below 8% in here, but that is also bearing in here. The Russian-Ukraine, last Wednesday, I did talk about the Russian-Ukraine war, the stop grain in here, but a lot of them has come to a stalemate. The advancement that the Ukraine has made during this winter has become slow, and Russia continued to fire off a lot of the kamikaze drone that we've seen in here. So, of course, at the same time, the President Biden administration is trying to get Zelensky into a talking table, right? Since at both sides, the Russian and Ukraine decided to stop, they might want to get on to start talking, maybe some sort of slowdown or some sort of ceasefire against in here, but yet to be seen if that is possible in here. But of course, the overall losing of the entire Ukraine is not possible in here. But last week, we did raise the long-term view of the oil in here and a lot of investment in here, as depending whether we will see a cold winter or not, the demand still remain to be very, very high in here. Right now, the conflict of the Russian-Ukraine, whether it will split to Baltic, has sort of been tempered down a bit in here because the advancement that is made by the Ukraine has slowed down. So you can see less news is less focusing on this. But who knows, things will change. Now, with that in mind, looking at the VSA 360, we want to look at some stocks that we think will help. Now, here are two indices. The first one is from our VSA 360 is the US Dow Jones. You can see US Dow Jones somewhere around the mid-October that turned green pentagon, and that has a nice follow through in here. For the technology heavy stocks, we don't see much right now. You can see hasn't turned green pentagon yet because of the interest rate. There's another two heights in here. Take note that technology stocks usually are impacted by the interest rate in here. Of course, from the Dow Jones, we do see some from the old economy, like the oil, like the food, like the financials are in the Dow Jones sector that we see in here. So that's why this market is taking off in here, because you do see a lot of recovery from the oil sector in here, whereas the Nasdaq, which is technology heavy, has taken much of the bidding here, but it did form a good base at 10,800 in here, yet to be seen, but it does offer a lot of opportunity should the technology sector revert back again in here. So keep that in mind what we have. Now from our VSA 360, let me just go on to our chart here. We have the US sector. This is the US sector you see here. So if you sort it out by the Pentagon, some of these sectors that I like, I'm going to share with you in here. Not all the sectors are good. You can see maybe like 60% of these have turned green pentagon. The energy sectors, the XLB, of course you can click on here, you can see energy continue to head upwards. That's a very nice one here. The other one sectors that I do like is finance. It's actually starting to turn green pentagon right now. So that's really, really healthy in here. Because if you do see interest rate rise, you can see some of these stocks will pick up. Right, like we said before, from the US Dow Jones, another 13% rally. So we're going to buy those that hasn't run yet. So you can see from the sector that I like, you might want to take this down. Energy, right? A comeback from technology. Comeback yet. Right now, technology hasn't really turned yet. Consumers staple, which is your usual day-to-day food, beverages, and also and financial, because our interest rate high, generally banks will do much better. So these are the four sectors. Energy, technology as being a comeback, so you still need to wait for that green pentagon. Consumer staple and financial, these are all have turned green pentagon. All right, so keep that in mind in here. Now if we look back from the VSA 360, looking at the ETF Dow Jones in here, why this is important, again you can see right top here, grand return about 75%, yearly return about 13%. This year so far, The Dow has been minus 7% down, right? Of course, on the Nasdaq it's about down 20% in here. November, we already see the market turning up, but you can see December month, this is the rally that we are looking for. And I do think that probably we will close year end, maybe just crossing 1 or 2% in here. I keep in mind we have the biggest monthly change because we have the biggest drop too, right? Every time when they drop 9%, the market will turn back, and then you can see turn back, you have a smaller change, and then you have another rally for the month of December in here. Now the Nasdaq technology heavy one, also very similar to Malaysia. You can see for November month, we are dipping down to minus 3% in here. Still early in November, who knows, just a couple of percent, we'll see that pick up and that run, and followed by December, we'll see again. Remember, it's minus 35% return for the technology. If you look back, yearly return has been only 23%, and grand total return we have seen during the COVID 2020 to 2021 technology sector has done so much better. But because of the inflation and the continued interest rate hike that we see, that technology stocks above here has really taken. But I do see a little bit of comeback in here. We might not close with a minus 35% in here, maybe minus 20, minus 10. There's still like a 10% upside from here on by the Nasdaq. Now some of the stocks I really like here, you can see Apple picking up from where technology is. Just looking at the seasonal return, you got like 200% return in here. Average return is 36. Again, I doubt the market this year will end with a minus 19%. So you can see 9% November, and the Apple, one of the best performers. As I said before, earnings didn't hurt that much. Who knows, it might pick up a bit of rally from in here. For those of you who have Apple, look into it. You can see Apple previously turned green Pentagon, but that day when the technology took a beating from the raise of interest, the market fell bound. Wait for the green Pentagon again. All right, Coca-Cola, a consumer sector, one of the sectors that I also like in here. So you can see month of December is likely to be that rally. Right, we got the good month, and food wise, you can't get away. This is a consumer sector, already turned green Pentagon in here. Slight pullback, a good entry at this level right now. Chevron, one of the energy sectors, as I mentioned before, has been doing well. I'm not showing you the VSA 360. For those of you who have the VSA 360, go ahead and take a look at it. Typing Chevron in here. And for those of you who don't have, I really invite you to join our masterclass and look into subscribing to the VSA 360. The other stocks I also like is Berkshire Hathaway for the financial B shares in here, and you can see hasn't done green Pentagon in yet, and these are the one that will benefit from the interest rate rise. So far Berkshire Hathaway hasn't make a run because it makes some losses in here, but it hasn't lost money compared to some of the technology stocks, right? Of course, the better ones were only those energy sectors for the whole year in here. So those are my stocks that I've covered for the US market, and I think there are lots more in here. Definitely you can find them on the VSA 360, but some of these are the popular ones. And of course, something I like to talk about is our continuing student as well as education program for our members. And for those of you who are listening in here, we are starting off our 100-day Trade VSA onboarding orientation. You can see some of our past winners have done so well from our 20 days challenge here. So now we're going for the 100-day challenge in here, and if you're interested, you're likely to be the next winner. We are starting in next week for our November, so a little bit of promotion here to get this program. If you have not registered, if you are an existing member, please register for a 100-day Trade VSA. Go on to VSA 360. As you log in, there's a pop-up, and also we do have the registration through our Google. This is something that we want to train you to be a more competent and much better trader investor going forward. And this 100-day is one of the benefit being a Trade VSA member in here. Absolutely free for already paying member in here. If you're not, you want to join us, we are doing our foundation class, which is this coming Sunday. That's right, this coming Saturday. We're going to be doing under the Zoom in here, and also the futures courses where we have a new system, very profitable system in here. You can trade out, and of course continuation from where we left off today will be our US market and portfolio that we talk about in here. That will be on the 4th of December in here, right? The cost is just up there for a good investment to a well structured education that will last you the next the next 12 months or more, will give you the kind kind of return if you are looking for both from the Malaysian market and the US market. Should not wait more on that, right? Now, of course, what we want to do is to get things right and to have the system in place, the toolkit in place, and the knowledge in place with the coach like myself and the team in here to watch over you, so you can do things differently and proud. If you haven't been really successful in the past, this is something you want to consider in here. Allocate your funds correctly by doing some of our focus on the short term to our 100-day. That's something we're doing on our masterclass profiling to really find out the kind of trader and you in here. Also, to diversify the sector, because we have the January 15 coming out in here, something I'll talk about next week. So today, just on the US market, looking at the trending stocks in here. So for summary, what I want to talk about is that the US market has a lot of good opportunity, and our VSA system has a very good positive, a very good win rate, and it's a time to trade on to some of the post US midterm rally in here. Our VSA Pentagon guided system is something that we are very proud of, and it does cover the the US side, cover on the US screener using our plugin in here, giving you all the stocks that you need. And for some of the stocks that you haven't got rid of it, maybe you can sell some of it and then focus on the shorter term as we see the year-end rally is coming in here. All these are just striving up and building that momentum for that December rally, which I've been talking about if you look back in the last seasonal analysis that we did on 360. Follow the smart money and you get all the alerts, even in our local shares and also in our TradingView plugin that comes to you in here. So all in all, the three continual pressure that we see, inflation, interest rate, as well as the recession, is all incoming. As the market is pricing in all this big bear monster, the market is going up. That is telling you market going up on bad news. So this market is starting right. We have seen the bear behind us, but a lot of our Pentagon guider is already pointing onto the upside in here, right? So use the Pentagon guider, those of you who don't. If not, use the one in the smart Robie in here. You can download it in here, as well as the green and red Pentagon, giving you the signal that you always need in here. And thank you for those of you who has been very supportive, giving us a good review. We like to say a thank you in here. If you're not, go over to our Google review and do it. And for those of you who are new on first time, you want to try our 10-day free trial, you can do so. Scan up the QR code in here. I'm sure you will not regret using the VSA 360 in here, and schedule a 30-minute session with our coaches for 266 in here. Right. So that's all we have for this evening, and those of you who are ready can subscribe to our system in here, and don't forget to subscribe to our Telegram chat room. And as I said before, US market is looking very good. No surprises if the market go upside in here. And if you have any questions, do pencil those in there. I'm happy to answer them, right? But all in all, the summary is been this market will rally. Don't be overly bearish, all right? As we see in here, the update on our market, the General Election 15, I will update you next week in here. Use the green Pentagon and red Pentagon and use the VSA 360 in here. Have a strategy, and I think if you do that, your chances will be so much better from here onwards. Okay? And any questions? If you have in there, do pencil in there. Other than that, I'll bid you a good night, and I'll see you on Friday on our breakfast show again. Thank you for coming, and don't forget to sign up for our 100-day free onboarding training for the next 3 months in here to bring you up into speed and into becoming a real profitable, consistent trader. Thank you, and bye-bye.